In John chapter 2, there's this part where Jesus is wanting to go to the temple and to pray, and he goes into the temple and he is shocked and appalled by what he is seeing, witnessing, experiencing. Starting at verse 13, when it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables, exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple courts. Both sheep and cattle, he scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold the doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then responded to him, "What sign can you show us to prove your authority to do all this?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." They replied, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you are going to raise it in 3 days?" But the temple he had spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said. Then they believed the scripture and the words that Jesus had spoken. You know, a lot of times we look at that scripture and we see Jesus' anger, and we think that that means that we can have anger and we can throw tables and throw tantrums in the way that humans do. That we have a right to actually take our anger out on others. You know, there's a difference, because what Jesus was experiencing was what we call righteous anger. This was blasphemy in God's house. He was watching them just defile his home, his temple. So the difference between righteous anger and the other kind of anger is you have to ask yourself what motivates you. Are you wanting to be right, or are you wanting to be righteous? There are times, rarely, that humans will experience righteous anger. It's with things that are truly unfair in the world and that are against God's will. And that's really what it comes down to. You can have righteous anger about something that is against God's will. But what we can't do, and what turns it away from righteous anger, is we can't use sin to act out our anger. We can't go and then sin because we're angry. And that's part of the problem with the world. We're human, we're not God. You know, that reminds me of this one scripture in Ephesians. Ephesians 4:26. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. And then it goes on to verse 27. And do not give the devil a foothold. You know, a lot of times we can be angry and we can think that we are in the right. But we have to learn, and we have to study scripture to understand that some things that we feel are so much different in the sense of what Jesus feels, what he felt. We can be angry for sure, like Jesus was angry. But we definitely can't go around throwing tables and throwing a whip. We have to remember that we're called here to be followers. We're called here to share God's love. And we're called here as people who are followers, not God, not like Jesus. And so remember that when you're angry, when you're upset and you're frustrated, do not let the sun go down on your anger. Do not let it take a bitter root. Do not use sin to act out your anger. And continue to ask yourself, what motivates you?